So, first of all, I would like to thanks Visamo Kids Foundation and the Kalorex Group for giving me this opportunity today to come and talk to you all. I will introduce myself. My name is Ravin. I live in Australia, in Brisbane, which is on the east coast of Australia. And also wanted to thank Sudeshna and Krunal for making this happen. So I'm absolutely honored and humbled to come and talk to you all today. So with Visamo, I guess Visamo Kids Foundation, they started in 2002. So they've been doing this noble and wonderful work, with children education, free education to the poor children coming from the underprivileged, under poverty families all over Gujarat. So I believe they're doing a fantastic, job, and we are really honored to be associated with Visamo Kids Foundation and Calorex Group. So once again, my sincere thanks to Visamo. I guess from our point of view as to how we got associated with Visamo is it goes back to 2016 when on one of our annual trip to India, which we normally do every 2 years. Both myself and my wife Veena, we were thinking about supporting one of the organizations in terms of charity, which we all do, so we all do charity in some form. Some people do either in cash or kind. And so we were sort of contemplating, looking around in Ahmedabad as to how we can support one of these organizations. There's so many organizations doing such a wonderful work, with supporting the people across underprivileged, I would say, the population in India. So we came across Visamo, and I guess what struck us with Visamo was the fact that they are involved with giving education. We believe that education is the greatest gift that you can give to a child. The reason for that is by giving them free education, you're not only enabling that child, making them more capable to look after themselves, but then you are also enabling them to look after their family in the long run. So I think this was what struck a chord with us and Visamo, and we are really glad that we found Visamo, uh, to sort of work with them. So we are extremely proud, and we will continue to support Visamo. So that's basically how we got in touch with Visamo. And then both myself and Veena, we went and checked out, the Ahmedabad Center. In Visamo, we were given a tour, and I would like to thank Sudeshna, a wonderful, wonderful lady there. She's always got a smile on her face, all the time. So she was kind enough to actually take us through and give us a tour of the center. And when we saw those kids, with the smile on their faces, and everything in the center was so well organized, we were just blown away. It was a great experience for both me and my wife, and that is when we decided that we have to be working together with Visamo in bringing the dream of every child, which is to get education. So that is our story, and we do not regret at all. Since 3 4 years, it's fantastic. We get regular updates of the child, and like I said, Sudeshna has been very good. So thank you, Sudeshna, and thank you, Visamo. Um, Without further ado, I will actually talk about the topic which I have selected today to talk to you all. So the topic I have selected today is change. If you think of 2020, who knew that back in sort of February, March, we will have something like this COVID-19 virus. It's actually changed our life completely 360 degrees. We start looking at everything so differently since we've had the COVID-19. So uh, that is a change. So that is a change which we all did not anticipate. We did not expect that anything like this would happen. Yes, there have been some viruses previously as well, globally, but this is by far the biggest, that we have seen in the last sort of 100 years, which is currently happening globally, with more than 8 lakh people who already, died because of the virus, and more cases happening everywhere around the world. So this is a very good example of a change, as to when change happens. So we all have been responding to this change in our own way. Um, but like I said, this is exactly the topic for today is change. So when you look at change, like the Greek philosopher once said, his name was Heraclitus. I don't know when this was, to 300 years ago. He said that change is the only constant in life. Our own Mahatma Gandhi also said that be the change you want to see in the world, which means you have to change yourself first to be able to see the change happening around you. So change happens all the time with all of us throughout our life. It all depends on how you actually take that change and how do you sort of learn from each change and how you actually convert those changes, to suit you in more favorable way, so that you can carry on with your life successfully, both professionally as well as personally. So, with this subject change, friends, I'm not a subject matter expert on change, nor have I written any books on change. But what I'm here today is to talk to you about my perspective of how I look at change, how I actually handle change. And obviously, I'll be sharing some of my experiences as well in terms of how I actually handle the change. So, I would like to request you all to bear with me for the next 20, 25 minutes as we actually go through this topic today. So once again, thank you and welcome to the talk. So when we talk of change, the thought itself change, it comes to our mind. There's a few reasons, that I have identified as to why we as human beings think about change. So I have kind of broken it down into three different, purposes or thoughts, if you want to put it that way. Um, One of the inherent or the basic need for happiness, that could be the reason for change. All of us, are sort of always yearning, always looking forward to that happiness in our life. So that is the reason why we could seek change. If I have to give you a simple example of this, if you think of a daily wage laborer, for him, or the change is basically once he's sort of worked through the whole day, worked really hard, he's purely looking forward to, the sun going down during night when he can actually take some rest and sort of, have that change. So for him, change is simply, the day that actually sort of goes through and he's sort of looking for some rest, some peace, for himself. So that's a change. That is a really basic sort of need for change. In terms of all of us, people who are working, I guess change could be that we kind of sort of stuck in the rut, with all the compulsions, that we have, hoping and praying for some time of peace and rest. So while we sort of go on with our routine at home, at work, we are really looking for something, sort of magical to happen in the near future that will actually make us more happy. So that is what I would call a change or a thought of change. And then you have some people who are really wealthy, they've got everything, that they can actually ask for, and yet they are actually looking for sort of inner satisfaction, more contentment. So again, they could be also looking for change. So those are three sort of examples of, why us as human beings could actually look for change. So once you've sort of identified that yes, we have to change or we have to make that change, how do you actually then sort of go about dealing with the change, which is where the strategy comes. So when we sort of look at change, and in terms of dealing with the change, there's a couple of things, three things that I've actually broken down into in terms of handling the change. The first and the foremost thing is self-realization. So if I want to change myself, either I have to realize myself that yes, I can actually change, or there are people around me, my family members, or my colleagues, at work, who would probably make me realize that yes, you probably need to change. So the first and foremost thing when you sort of look at change, or you sort of look at dealing with change, is to try and have that self-realization. um, that is the first step. The second step could be looking at, being responsible. So once you identify that yes, you have to change yourself with any situation, that actually you're facing in life, you then have to be responsible to actually take some actions, be accountable, to make that change. There's no point just saying that, look, I want to change. So it is not going to happen. For you to actually make that change happen, you have to be responsible enough to actually put a plan in place, that you can actually action. So that is where the responsibility comes, in terms of making that change. And the third and the most important thing, when you are sort of starting to make that change, is actually to believe yourself. So you would have come across lots and lots of examples of people in life, in your family, around you, at work, where people sort of tell you that yes, I want to make this change. They also have a plan, but then they never follow up on that plan, and somewhere around along the line there is that lack in conviction, the self belief, the trust which you should place in yourself, which is not there. So even though they want to change and they have like a plan in place, it actually does not eventuate, so they're not successful purely because they don't believe in themselves. So it is really important for us to actually believe in what we want to change and why we want to change. So three things that I've identified in sort of dealing with change is: number one is self-realization, that you have to realize you need to make the change. Number two is you have to be responsible, take responsibility, accountability for making that change happen. And then you have to have the self-belief. Really, really super important. Look, in terms of dealing with change, I would like to sort of take you through my story as to how I dealt with one of the biggest change that came through in our life. So this is going back to, excuse me, 2015, when my wife Veena was actually diagnosed with chronic kidney disease, stage 4. So I'm sure you guys understand what this is. When you have a stage 4 kidney disease, pretty much 75% of your kidney function is gone. And unfortunately, with kidneys, it is one of the organs in the body where you cannot regenerate the kidney cells. So once the kidney dies, the function goes, that's it. You cannot get it back. So the only option is kidney transplant. So this came to us like a bolt, like a lightning bolt out of the blue. She was perfectly fine, healthy, very active. She was working just like me. uh, there were some sort of initial signs, like she had some swelling in the feet and stuff like that, nothing out of the ordinary. So we just went and did a routine sort of blood test, with our medical center, with our family doctor, and the reports came back saying, you have stage 4 chronic kidney disease. So it was absolutely a massive blow to all of us in the family, in terms of sort of mental stress that it actually brought along. I mean, we didn't understand how to react to that, when the diagnosis was told to us in the consultation room. I still remember that particular day. So like I said, this was a big shock to us. And the first few months we sort of did a lot of opinions from different doctors. We were talking to family back home, talking to some of the doctors over here, just to try and understand that with a situation like this, how do you actually cope up with the health issue that she had to start with, and then everything else which comes around with that. So not only that was the health issue for us, but it was also looking after the family. My son was actually in year 12 at the same year, 2015. So um, he was extremely stressed, and so was myself, and my wife as well. So a tremendous sort of few months of huge stress that actually all of us went through. So with myself, how I guess actually dealt with the change was, it was just one of those weekends when I was talking to one of my friend in New Zealand, that she said to me that, look, have you tried doing meditation? And I said, no, I have never even thought of doing meditation. For me, meditation was something which people do after retirement, when you've actually done everything with your life, and you have time, and you actually start meditation. So it was a totally new concept for me. But because she saw that I was quite stressed mentally, she recommended that I should actually look at something like meditation. So I was fortunate enough to get in touch with someone here in Brisbane who is actually a heartfulness guide, and he was kind enough to actually take me through a couple of sessions. So that's how I decided, one of the changes I did to try and bring myself on track with that tremendous stress that I was going at that point in my life, was to try and get into meditation, for mental calmness, for clarity of mind, to handle my stress. So again, going back to my example, I realized that I had to make a change to deal with my stress levels, my anxiety levels. I had to be responsible, so I had to take action, which I did at that point of time, and then I had to follow through. So I've been now meditating for 5 years, and it has definitely helped me a lot. And then I had the self-belief that if I do actually meditate, it'll actually help me. So that's really important, those three things when you're dealing with change. In terms of strategy, going further, once you've identified those things which change, what I would recommend is, for all of you, is to write it down. I find it really helpful. Is write it down where you are today. When you set upon making the change yourself, write it down where you are today, where you want to be. Also, when you put down where you actually want to be, jot down what are some of the values that you would like to have. People, all of us stand for values and beliefs, so that those are important to you throughout your life. So write it down as to what exactly is what of value to you. Also, when you are sort of writing down that plan, uh, in terms of making that change, also write down what are some of the hindrances, what are some of the obstructions that you actually could come across while you actually want to get there. So it's important to identify those roadblocks, so that you can actually take care of them, and be successful in making the change happen for you. What slows you down. So basically what I would suggest is, write down everything where you are today, where you want to be, what sort of change you want to make with your life, and then also write down some of the obstructions so you can actually handle them while you're actually making the change. One of the other thing which I would also recommend is, being proactive. So there are two types of people: proactive and reactive. Proactive people are the one who actually take initiative to make the change happen. And I'm not going to talk about reactive people, but if I give you an example of being proactive, is imagine you have two circles, right? So in your mind, if you just think of two circles, so one is your bigger circle, and then within the bigger circle you have a smaller circle. So with this bigger circle, I would call the bigger circle as the circle of concern, which is your outer circle. This is the circle of concern where things are sort of there, problems are there which are not in your control. So if I have to give you an example of, outer circle would be, say, for example, the COVID-19 pandemic. It is not in your control. It is a virus which is going on globally. Yes, you can take some actions to prevent yourself, your family members, and people around you, but there's nothing much you can do about stopping COVID-19. So that's what I would call things, which are not in your control, sitting in the outer circle. Then you have things like the global economy or the national debt. These are things, or the weather for that matter. So these are things which are not in your control. And then when you look at your inner circle, this is actually what I call as a circle of influence. These are the things in your life which you can influence. So if you think of things like, your monthly budget, your finances, within your home, you can actually control your finances. Your health, you can actually look after your health, you can control your health, you can eat healthy, you can exercise. So things which are in your control, your habits, when you sort of go to work or you're in your family. So these are things which you can control, which is your inner circle, which is a circle of influence. So proactive people, when they actually make the change, they focus on the circle of influence. If you keep working on things which are under your control, be it your work, your family, your relationship, you will see that slowly this, the inner circle will start growing, and your outer circle, which was a circle of concern, will start shrinking because you're focusing more time and energy into the inner circle, improving things which are under your control. Your circle of concern will start reducing. This is a good starting point. So when you go to make about any change, look at the proactive approach, and always, remember the circle of influence versus the circle of concern, and always work on your circle of influence. And what you will see is, over time, when you get better at things which are under your control, slowly the worries, the stress, the concerns will start to go away because you're improving your circle of influence. The end result of all this is basically content and happiness, right? So that's what we actually want to get there. I hope I'm going right with time here. So once you've sort of identified the plan, you've written a strategy that you sort of want to get there in terms of making the change. One of the other things which I would suggest is actually set a daily routine. So if you want to make a change, so for example, if you want to lose weight, don't sort of start gymming, 5 6 hours a day and sort of, go on a crash sort of course with your diet. Take small steps. Start with 15 20 half an hour sort of working or walking or jogging initially, and then slowly increase. Same thing with your diet. Start slowly by cutting, the calories, and once you're comfortable, once your body can handle the less calories, and then you can still maintain your agility, your fitness, you can then actually start cutting down more. So small steps, one at a time. will actually help you to succeed. I have seen a lot of people, whether it's losing weight or their New Year resolutions, they start with a bang and then there's no follow up. They can't keep up with it because it's too hard and they give up. So one step at a time will eventually lead to success. Really important. The other thing to do when you're sort of making those big changes in your life is also try and have like some positive activities to support yourself. So if I have to give an example, on the weekends, maybe if you have a hobby like music, start doing that. If you sort of like some sports, start playing some sports, whatever you enjoy, whatever you like, other than your work. Start doing that on the weekend, because it is really important to keep you cheerful, happy, because that will actually help you to be more effective in your sort of plan, or your strategy to sort of make those changes. And then the other thing which is really important is periodic evaluation. Always evaluate your plan, always evaluate your strategy. That is where I said, if you write it down everything, you can actually go back to that script and you can actually see if some of the things which you said you were going to do, are you actually doing that? And if you are not doing that, what are again some of the steps you can actually take to actually get there? So really important to actually do periodic evaluation, of your plan. The other thing which I would also want to highlight here, and this comes back to sort of meditation, is when you look at our brain, um, or sort of what lies in here, you have your conscious mind, and you have your unconscious or subconscious mind. Um, 95% of the processing and decision making actually happens in the subconscious mind. So conscious mind actually gives the commands to the subconscious mind, and subconscious mind actually processes everything. That is where all our beliefs and habits are formed. So that's why when you start meditating, you actually start tapping into your subconscious mind. You actually get better with the subconscious mind, and that's why you see those positive changes in your anxiety and stress levels going down. Also, a good thing to do is clean up all the clutter. With your active mind or your conscious mind, try and clean all the clutter. Just focus on the changes that you are wanting to make in your life to be more happy. You will come across during the day, there's so many things happening around us, but at the end of the day, if you just try and focus on what you need to get done to make those changes happen, it'll give you a lot of and give you some positive outcomes at the end of it, because there's no point in getting confused and going in 10 different directions. So it is really important to clean up the clutter and retrain your mind to actually focus on essentials, which is what the meditation does as well. So it's really great, awesome if you guys can start meditating. The other thing which also is important is the art of letting go. When I say the art of letting go, a lot of things happen, with us during the entire day. So if you go to work, there's so many things happening at work, your colleagues, the customers that you deal with, people walking into your offices. There's always something happening, people saying to you. So you should learn to actually get away from, those sort of comments or negative, comments or whatever people might be actually making about, anyone or yourself, because if you focus on negative thoughts or negative comments, it'll actually pull you down. So if you can learn the art of letting go, again, it sort of brings you back to the focus. It brings you back to your goal as to what you set upon yourself. So really important. These are some of the things which will happen if you start meditating. Which I have been doing, and it has actually helped me a lot. Um, So once sort of you've got the uh, you've identified the change you want to make, you've got the plan, you've sort of got the strategy, you're actually following your strategy, and you can see some results happening. That is how I would actually recommend you all to go through in terms of handling change in your life. Time permitting, I'll just take a few more minutes to quickly go through a couple of other information with you. So, I said to you that I started meditating, doing meditation back in 2015 when I had that big change in my life. So now that I've been meditating for almost 4 or 5 years, I have seen tremendous, benefits of that. The reason I say that you should consider meditation is when you currently look at, the biggest sort of health issue globally that people have. It's not COVID-19. it is actually stress. All of us have tremendous stress, whether you are, a teenager, whether you are in your sort of, 30, 40s, or whether you're actually getting old, everyone has got stress. So if I have to give you some numbers, roughly out of 2.3 billion, people living on this planet, 700 million people are actually diagnosed with mental health problems, or currently are diagnosed with mental health problems. So a third of world population is currently struggling with sort of mental health problems or health issues. There's roughly 8 lakh people who actually commit suicides every year globally. This is more than people dying in war, murder, or natural disaster each year. Stress is also the second most leading cause of death between the age group 15 to 29 globally. 75% of all adult mental disorders begin before the age of 24. So it's really our young population which is actually getting sort of hammered by the stress. It's really important that we actually get on top of stress. And one of the ways that you guys can actually get on top of the stress is actually start something like meditation, which has certainly helped me. So I would strongly recommend, you to actually look at, there's different types of meditation. I will share with you a technique here which I've been following, if that is helpful. But I would sincerely request all of you to consider some form of meditation, because when you start meditating, you get that balance of mind, you get that clarity of thought, you start working on your subconscious mind, which is where all the habits and actions are formed, because subconscious mind is active all the time. So meditation actually improves, the subconscious mind. So it actually improves good habits. It gives you that sort of balance which we need, with our mental health. Um, what else? Other than that, with meditation, it also improves. So when you start meditating, it works on the left side of your brain. So when I sort of, if you look at myself, this is my sort of left side of the brain. So when you meditate, the left side of the brain, or the cortex as we call, is actually activated, and it actually improves the gray matter in the brain. So this is scientifically proven. Whereas if you are more stressed, where you're depressed, it actually affects your right side of the brain, which is more of focused on negative thoughts. So it's always good to actually improve the left side of your prefrontal cortex, which is what meditation helps you to do. Some of the other benefits of meditation, I guess, are it positively wires the brain. It improves your, higher order functions or brain functions. It improves your awareness, your focus, your decision making. Like I said earlier, gives you clarity of thoughts, mind. It also reduces the flight reaction or the flight response. The flight response is something which how the body actually reacts to the acute stress. So when you actually have like stress occurring, the body actually releases hormones like adrenaline and non-adrenaline, which actually pushes your heart rate high. It actually increases your blood pressure, and your breathing also goes up. So when you actually start meditating regularly, it actually reduces your flight reaction. Whereas if you are in stress, you are in the flight mode or flight reaction all the time. So that's why the stress is really, really bad for health. So meditation actually reduces this flight reaction, which is really important, in terms of handling stress. Some of the other benefits of meditation are, I guess, reduce fatigue. You'll feel more lively, more cheerful. You'll also feel more calm. Your anxiety levels will drop as well. Your sleep patterns will also improve. Certainly has improved with me. So if you have a better sleep, you wake up fresh next day. You're more agile, more active, and it also increases your overall awareness. In life. So it will help you with your work, professional, as well as with when you're at home. It just sort of helps overall. I would like to quote a famous, quote rather, which is by Albert Einstein. So Einstein once said that I think 99 times and find nothing. I stop thinking, swim in silence, and the truth comes out. So sometimes, it's just really important for us to just sit quiet, still for some time, and think of nothing else, and just sort of, have that calm, peaceful session with yourself, and you will realize that you'll have much more clarity. You'll feel much more at ease once you come out of that, which is what meditation does. So the practice or the meditation technique which I have been following is called heartfulness meditation. So Heartfulness Institute is a worldwide institute which promotes relaxation and meditation programs for general public. It is actually free to everyone. It actually deals with handling stress and anxiety. So I would sincerely, recommend if you have not tried Heartfulness. So it is HEARTFULNESS. So if you Google heartfulness.org, you'll actually find the site. It's a simple and practical way to experience Heart's unlimited resources. And like I said, the practice is free of charge. As suggested, the heartfulness practice, allows you to move from thinking to feeling, so it is really simple. I'll just quickly, take you through 3 steps of this meditation. So you gently close your eyes and suppose or sort of imagine, so find a sort of nice spot in your house, like a room which you can go and sit every day. Gently close your eyes and suppose or sort of imagine, that the source of light is actually illuminating in your heart from within. So rather than trying to visualize it, have an idea in a natural and a simple way without any effort. So just just sit quietly, focus on your heart, and imagine that there's a light, which is illuminating within your heart, and then just focus on your heart. If your mind wanders, because you will get a lot of thoughts, don't worry, it's all natural. But just gently bring back the attention to your heart and just focus on heart. If you try and do this practice slowly each day, 10, 15 minutes, which is what I started doing, slowly you will see the difference. You'll have more calmness. You will be able to, handle the anxiety, the stress, and you'll have your mental balance. So I would sincerely suggest that you should check out the site, which is www.heartfulness.org. And I would recommend that all of you should definitely give it a try. And it has certainly helped me in handling that one big change which came in our life. But the reason I do it on a daily basis now, and I've been doing it, is that it actually helps you overall. You will see that suddenly you'll become a much more cheerful person. You'll be happy, you'll be content, and the positivity actually flows from you to your family as well. So I would recommend you to actually go and check out Heartfulness. Look, that is pretty much from me today, friends. I would like to thank you all for being so patient and listening to me. I wish you all the best. And once again, thanking Visamo Kids Foundation and Kalorex for giving me this opportunity today to come and talk to you all. Thank you and good evening. Bye for now.